Well, hello and welcome to our first session of our first ever virtual Equip series. And we are going to be talking today about navigating the digital shift. I'm here with my very dear friend, Clancy Nixon, who is the rector of Church of the Holy Spirit in Leesburg. And Clancy, there have been so many changes over the last 7 months. It's just been amazing. COVID-19 has just completely altered everything for us. Mm-hmm. And, I just find that no matter who I talk to, people are having to make these massive changes. There's a seismic shift going on, and people are having to consider questions that they've never had to think about before. Like, how do you do evangelism when you can't meet with people? Mm-hmm. And how do you do worship when you can't meet together in your sanctuary? And how do you do discipleship when people are all scattered about? And so there are just so many things that are having to be reconsidered and rethought. And we're just in this massive upheaval right now. And so, this time is very disconcerting for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And yet full of great opportunities too. So we want to look together at how we can survive and thrive. What's the key to navigating this whole thing? And so we're gonna begin to think about how it's impacting us and how it's impacting our churches. And I think the question that I hear a lot of times is, when are things going to get back to normal?
We're all asking that.
Yeah. And that's a valid question, and that's certainly, I think, what we all want. But I'm wondering, I'm hearing also that maybe this is the new normal. Mm-hmm. So what do you think about that?
Well, I think in a lot of ways it is the new normal.
Yeah.
I'm going to speak from my experience, not because I think it's better wisdom than any other rector that's out there, but just because this is what I know best. And for us, online worship was something that was, that's in the plan. We'll get there one day.
One day, right.
And we were doing video sermons, and so we had a video ministry already. Right. But suddenly it was, this week, we're doing it now. We must do this. And that's where a lot of us were. I mean, it's all of us, actually. It was kind of like, okay, we got to do something different. How do we get there?
Yeah.
And one of the things that's become clear to me over this period of months is that the future of the church is going to be both in person and online. We have to think about both all the time. Mm-hmm. And it's been a shift. It's hard. It takes time to get into that space. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm having staff meetings, and it's like I still have to cast vision for this. Yeah. Because we're still not thinking fully about the online world in ministry. So I want to just give you a little bit of overview of what it's like here at Church of the Holy Spirit.
Great.
So I'm glad to have you here in the nave, Tom.
Thank you. Great to be here.
I wish you could see the beautiful Jerusalem cross up there, but we got the St. Andrew's cross here for you.
There we go.
So before COVID-19, we were running about 155 in average Sunday attendance. Mm-hmm. Small, medium size church. Now we've got about 40 to 45% of those people showing up on Sunday. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we were just shut down, skeleton crew only for 3 months. Mm-hmm. And then in July we opened up, and slowly people have been coming back. Now, because we're in touch with our people, we know that about 50% of the people that used to come are watching us online.
Right.
Okay, so we have this other congregation that's out there now that aren't showing up for a variety of reasons, either because they're compromised immunologically, or maybe they don't want to wear a mask when they come in. There's a variety of reasons, but they're not coming. And so probably about 10%, it's like they're just out there. Mm-hmm. They're not connecting anymore. And those people that are watching from home and not coming, they're looking at other people's services. And, I get links, people send me links saying, hey, you got to watch this. So I watched one of these things coming out of New York City, beautiful, Good Shepherd Church, Evangelical Episcopal Church. And this thing was totally pre-recorded, completely highly produced.
Yeah.
1 hour, beautiful thing, right? But all pre-recorded. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
But that's what other people are seeing. And they're comparing us to them, and we don't come out real favorably, frankly, right?
Yeah.
But we're trying to learn from those kinds of sources to see how we can do it better. But so in the old world, it was like there was this positive pressure to come to church on Sunday. People felt it. That is gone.
Yeah.
It's just gone. I don't think that's coming back, right? So people know that they can simply click their computer and stay in their pajamas and be at home. So one of the things that I've learned is this statistic. I think these are projections, so you don't really know, right? But there's this great church consultant guy named Will Mancini, runs this organization called Oxano that you and I know well. Right. And they're projecting that in the next 2 to 3 years, after this whole COVID crisis ends, okay, whether it's a vaccine or therapeutics or whatever it is, at some point it's going to go back toward normal. But what's going to happen is the church isn't going to go back to normal. We're going to have somewhere between 50 and 75% of the attendance we had before.
Wow.
That's what they're projecting.
Wow.
Based on what we're seeing about people's new experience. Some of them like staying at home, in their pajamas. And they're just not coming back. So, in terms of how long this thing is going to last, we don't know.
Yeah.
Right? Andy Crouch wrote that marvelous article about the blizzard and the winter and all of that. And some of us thought it would just be a blizzard and then it would pass and just a couple weeks we'll do this. Remember that? Then it was like, is it a winter? Is that the right metaphor for what it is? And we were closed for 3 months. That was like a winter.
Yeah.
But this thing is stretching on and on.
Yeah.
It's not quite an ice age, but it's somewhere between a winter and an ice age. So I think we just have to shift. We have to fully go this direction toward digital. And we're still understanding what that means. We don't really know.
Yeah.
And you and I talked about this, Tom, about clergy and congregations. We've been on clergy calls and we're hearing people talk about how disorienting this thing is.
Yes.
I mean, I'm struck in these clergy meetings on Zoom. Thank you, Bishop John. He gets the clergy together in this big Zoom call, and then we break up into small groups. And guys on the small group are saying, I don't have a clue what I'm doing. Like every day, I used to think I knew, but now, I really don't know.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of disorientation.
Yeah. And I think that there's an aspect of that in some ways, as hard as it is to go through it, that's a necessary thing to experience. Because I've always felt that the church was slow to react to the world. And that we sometimes get this gap. We sort of pull away from our culture in a way that I frankly don't think is really good or helpful. And so as I've looked at just where the church is today and where we're going, I have had some very serious concerns that I wasn't sure we were addressing. And so one thing about the disorientation that I think has actually been helpful is that it has forced us now to begin to take stock. It's forced us to look at what we're doing, how we're doing it, and frankly, to embrace the fact that we're going to be making some changes. I think that's a helpful and important thing.
Sure, but to continue on this theme of where we are and what the moment is like, I want to say that, there's this general malaise that people are we're feeling.
Yeah.
People don't, nobody knows. It's not like there's any map. This is what we're talking about, is navigating off the map.
Right.
Nobody knows.
Right.
We're all guessing. We don't know what's next. We're not sure how to get there.
Right.
You know, everything is different. And, you know, what can you count on for your budget? What can you count on from your people? You know, and then there's this enormous amount of anxiety. And so the anxiety is in the pews or, you know, at home.
Yeah.
But there's also anxiety in clergy.
Yeah.
I was reading that Tom Rainer, this researcher with Lifeway, says that the majority of the clergy he's talking to are thinking about quitting. It's completely new. And the reason is because they're overwhelmed. Clergy typically are overwhelmed. And I just want to encourage the lay people who are watching this to, you know, support your clergy. Ask them how they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, find a way to find out how they're doing, because likely they're discouraged.
Yeah.
You know, and because they're dealing with people who are, you know, divided politically, they're divided about masks, they're divided about coming or not coming and what's wise and not wise. And, you know, there's family anxieties, because all these family systems, when they're not working well to begin with, put this on top of it.
Right.
And so it's there's a lot of anxiety. It's generalized anxiety. It's like people sometimes can't put their finger on it.
Yeah. I was listening to a great podcast. Bishop Todd Hunter has a Intersection podcast. I like listening to that. And they were talking in a recent episode about the need to lament. That was the word they were using. And they were talking about the Psalms of lament and how important it is to express that kind of grief that you feel when your whole world is upside down and you're having to just kind of get reoriented to the situation you're in, and that whole aspect, I think, of mourning for me was helpful, because I'm not now in a congregation as you are. I mean, I'm not leading a congregation. My job is really to help clergy around the diocese, and particularly our church planters. So I assist at Truro, but I'm really not in the place of responsibility as you are. But even I have felt it, and I have gone through long periods where I just felt this deep weight, and I don't know, I don't know what to do with that. And I found thinking about the Psalms of Lament was helpful to me, and finding a way to give voice to the grief that I was feeling was helpful. And I can imagine that in a congregational setting, that would be even more important, because there's a whole corporate aspect to that. It's not just me feeling it individually, but we are feeling it. And somehow it's important, I think, for all of us to recognize that and to be able to express it.
We do need to grieve. And we also need to be careful we don't get stuck there.
Yes.
Right. And I'm very aware, leading a congregation, that people need hope.
Yeah.
People need from their leaders, to believe that it's going to be okay, that God's still sovereign, that He's actually got this in His hand, and that He's going to take us through. Because it's discouraging for everybody. Frankly, I don't know anybody who's not discouraged about it. But on the other hand, we need, so while we need to take account of it, we also need to provide hope for people.
And I think what that does is it then frees us up to say, okay, what do we need to do about this? How do we need to address this? And there are a lot of new things that we have to be learning. There's just a whole category of stuff that's new to us. So how do we do that?
Well, that's a great question. So I just think back to 6 months ago, right? Or however many it is now. And I think about when I told Greg and Brennan, we're doing it this week. We got to get there, right? And, and I remember Greg saying to me, it's going to be rough. And I said to him, I know. I don't expect it to be great the
Yeah.
first week, but we have to start.
Yes.
And in fact, it was rough,
Yeah.
but we've learned over time how to do it. And I just want to encourage you, if any of you are thinking, I don't know how to get there. Well, just one step at a time, one foot in front of the other, and then remember, it's an iterative process, and you're going to do continuous process improvement.
Yes.
And so that's what we do.
Yeah.
I mean, so we get together as a staff on Zoom every week, and we talk about how it went.
Yeah.
We talk about the glitches.
Yeah.
We talk about the good stuff.
Right.
And we got lots of new equipment, new cameras, new this, new that. I mean, it turns out that our expenses have gone way down.
Wow.
Well, we're not having to pay as many people. We're not doing our special events. We don't have the childcare expenses, all this kind of stuff. So we invested in some new equipment.
Yes.
And that's been great.
That's important.
It is.
Yeah.
But the most important thing isn't the money.
Yeah.
I think it's paying attention week by week to do continuous process improvement. So we've been doing that on Sundays.
Right.
And I'm going to talk a little bit more about other kinds of ways that we're reaching out later. But, the bottom line is that we're continually tweaking.
Yeah.
One of the quotes that I read recently that was really very helpful for me is that the job of the senior pastor, the job of the rector, isn't to preserve what we have.
Right.
Especially now.
Yeah.
Okay. It's to protect the congregation.
Yeah.
Okay. So there is this outside thing that's coming in that's affecting everything, and it's not helpful to think about. Okay, we're gonna preserve this and that and all of these different processes. Well, I mean, there's something. What we have to instead is thinking, how do I protect my people? Mm-hmm. Okay, so from loneliness, from discouragement, from feeling disconnected, and so we're looking forward to how we can both survive and thrive. And I don't want to give some idea that we're thriving. I don't think so. I mean, it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah.
Right? Even though there's, I'm going to tell you about some things that really are kind of exciting that are happening. But still, this is a very difficult time. But there's lots of new opportunities here.
Yeah.
There really are.
Yeah.
I mean, we just weren't going there.
Yeah.
Well, nice one day, but now it's like, okay, we got to go there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, as I think of the story of the Jewish people through history, I think about the Old Testament and all the things that they went through and the massive changes that they experienced, and then continuing that through the New Testament and everything that happened with the early apostles and the early church. It was massive change all the time, and they were constantly they were always on this journey of having to figure out, okay, we're in a different set of circumstances now. When they were carried off into exile.
Sure.
I mean, can you imagine that?
Or in the early church, there's persecution, seasons of persecution, and all of that. And, I mean, you and I have talked a lot about, in church planting, I've worked with Tom for 30 years in church planting. Dude.
Yeah.
The difference between settlers and pioneers.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
When you're a church planter, you're going to attract pioneers.
Right.
Settlers are like, I'll wait till you get a building.
Right.
Right. So but now it's like we're all pioneers again.
Right.
And for church planters like you and me, Tom, that's exciting.
That is exciting. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's so many new possibilities, and we love to see what God does.
Yeah. And so what I'm hearing us say then is that we have to embrace the moment. I mean, it kind of begins with embracing the moment and embracing the new reality and saying, okay, here we are. What do we do about this? How do we respond to this? And I think I remember reading something by Thomas Kuhn where he said that the days of the best practices are over. That we basically have to get a new playbook.
Yep.
And that's hard to think about.
This is the paradigm shift guy?
Yeah. And so you're thinking, okay, I mean, he's talking structurally, and he's thinking that this is this is a completely different time. And the way I think about that is that God somehow we have to believe, I think, that God has been preparing us, okay? Mm-hmm. And so that what God is doing is drawing out from us what he's already put into us, you know? Mm-hmm. And so it's in that moment, I think, that we discover his faithfulness, his presence being right there with us. And so, so we're not relying on ourselves. And I think that's one of the lessons that is really right here for us is to recognize that, you know, we have to depend on God. I think it's so natural for us as Americans to want to rely on ourselves. And when things are just kind of rocking along, that's what we're doing. But to recognize the fact that, you know, God wants us not just to depend on him once in a while, but actually to live in that place where we're always depending on him.
Well, and that's the truth is that's where we are right now.
Yeah.
But it's not like we chose this.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
But God has a way of getting us where he wants us to be.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, you know, as we reckon with that and as we embrace the moment, then, you know, God is able then to begin to bring some new things alive to us and help us to learn a different way of leading, different way of living. We've both read the book Canoeing the Mountains by Todd Bolsinger, and this has been a great experience just thinking about it. He talks about the expedition of Lewis and Clark and how they were expecting to be able to get to the Continental Divide and just float right down the river to the Pacific Ocean, only to encounter instead the Rocky Mountains. And now this whole expedition was completely in a different place, and they had to learn how to lead off the map. That's the phrase he uses. Yeah. And the thing that they did was to make the decision that they were going forward. They weren't going to go back. And so they had to basically sell the canoes and buy the horses and the mules and the camping gear and all the stuff that they didn't have that they needed to have. And so part of it, I think, for us is saying, okay, what is it that we have to do differently? You know, and what do we let go of? And what do we now have to embrace?
Like my canoe.
That's right. That's right. That's the problem, isn't it?
It's fun to ride that thing.
That's right. Do you imagine Lewis and Clark carrying those canoes across the Rocky Mountains, though?
Well, they did for a while.
Yeah, for a while,
until
right?
They figured out it was fruitless.
That's right. Yeah. But that's where we are. And so, you know, part of it, I think, for us is just, you know, the sooner we can recognize that, the sooner we can, you know, begin to make our adjustments, the better. You know, so I think part of it then is, you know, finding that, you know, we're in a new context. Leonard Sweet uses the word contextual intelligence, CQ, which I really like. You know, we've got to kind of figure out where we are, get our bearings, and figure out how to navigate in the midst of this new situation that we're in.
That's right.
So, you know, I think that part of that for us, the part that maybe is the newest part for us, is just learning how to use the new tools of technology. And as I was thinking about that and thinking about what this is like, I mean, I'm not having to do it as often as you are and folks that are listening now to our video, but just having to preach to an iPad is so different. You know, you have absolutely nothing coming back, you know? And so just the digital part of it is so different. But then I got to thinking, you know, we're not the first ones that have to do this. I mean, think about this. In our secular world, think about the companies that have had, and the kind of businesses that have already had to make this shift.
20 years ago.
Yeah. That's right.
That's right.
And so the ones that have made that, like, you know, the Amazons, you know, are, you know, and Amazon.
They're thriving.
Oh man, they were at a point that I remember when they first started, you know, everybody saw the potential, but can they really make this work? And that was the big question for Amazon years ago. And now, look at them. So Amazon's made the shift. So retail sales have made the shift. Restaurants, you can just order anything online from a restaurant. Think about newspapers. When's the last time you had a real newspaper in your hand? Or books.
You don't want to know. I like hard copies.
You like hard copies, yeah.
I get my Wall Street Journal.
I hear you. Yeah, I feel that way about books. I do have books that I read on my Kindle, but there are a lot of books I just have to have them in my hand. But so we're sort of the old guys. We're the old guys, right?
You and me.
Yeah, we're the Luddites.
It's true.
So,
but the thing is that older people like us need to make the shift.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you. I'm not an innovator, but I am an early adopter of technology.
Yes.
So I think that's been helpful.
Yeah.
Because if they're like for example, I was one of the first people to have a Palm phone. Remember that? They merged the Palm Pilot with a phone, and Kyocera put them together, and I just thought that thing was the best thing since sliced bread. Contacts and your phone in the same machine. I'm there.
Yeah.
So I'm wired to want to do this. Mm-hmm. But the truth is, even if you're not wired for it, you got to do it.
Yeah.
We got to get there.
Yeah.
If you don't, it's going to be very different.
Yeah.
Because all the opportunities seem to be in this new direction. Yeah. And so, and our kids, the young people, they all get it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I was reading something that said that as far as millennials are concerned and Gen Z, you are what you stream. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So they're checking you out on the stream, and if your stream is bad or mediocre, then they think you're mediocre.
Yeah.
And so this is the new reality.
Yeah. And what's interesting to me, we've all seen statistics about which generations are part of the church, and the sad reality is that the numbers keep going down.
Right.
And so you have the certain percentage of the builder generation, and it's a lesser percentage for boomers and a lesser percentage for Gen X, and it just keeps going. And when you get to millennials and Gen Z, the percentages are abysmal.
Yes.
And I think part of the reason for that is what you were just saying, that we're not speaking their language.
That's right.
That's their native tongue.
Mm-hmm. It is.
I have two children, adult children who are millennials, and they grew up with this stuff, unlike us. So for them, this is natural. And for us to be this slow in adopting the things that we're having to adopt digitally, in some ways it's shame on us that we have not been speaking their language, that we've not been connecting with them.
Well, let's get to it, Tom. So I'd like to address some things about what specific ministry areas of church look like in the new normal.
Great. Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
So, part of my the way I'm wired is I like to do experiments. Okay.
Yeah.
I was at Church of the Apostles in the 90s, and they introduced me to this concept. They said, we're an experimental church. I said, what's that? And what they said was, we're willing to try anything.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
I love that because I'm a church planner guy. I want to try new stuff. But the thing is that I think one of the reasons why a lot of people don't try new stuff is because they're afraid of failing. Yeah. Very human kind of concern. Yeah. I was reading something just this morning, though, that was awesome on this. This guy, Derek Silver, musician, secular guy, but he says failure is a mindset. And that if you see life as a series of experiments, then if you don't get success, it's just like you learned something. Yeah. It's not a failure. Yeah. If you see it as just in terms of success and failure, it's like, you've got your goal, and if you don't get the outcome that you want, that it's a failure. Yeah. I think that's not the best way to look at it. Yeah. I think we need to try all kinds of new stuff. Yeah. And share with each other what's working. I don't know about you, but I've loved those clergy calls where we would get on and talk about, say, hey, this is what I'm doing that's working. Yeah. What about you? Well, I'm trying this and that. And I took notes furiously on that stuff.
Yeah.
That's great. So I try lots of new things. So I just want to say I learn a lot, Tom.
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of learning. What doesn't work.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to just focus on pastoral care.
Okay,
How
good.
do you do pastoral care?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are people who are doing it better than we are. But I feel like we came up with a good plan that we implemented. So we have a series of small groups. We've got 20 small groups at the church. Most of our people are in small groups, but then we have people who just won't get in small groups. Every church has this.
Right.
What do you do about them? How do you help them to feel cared for? Right? And, also, not all of our small groups are continuing to meet. So, most of them are, but some of them just never made the transition to Zoom, right? Or in person. So we have a system, a ministry system called the Pastoral Care Team, and we've had this for a while. And so we have people call people who aren't in a small group on some regular schedule, just to see how they're doing. We train these people, and the truth is that system hadn't worked great. It was like, okay, it was a system that we had that could have been better. But now we knew we had to do this, and we had to do it well.
Yeah.
So we beefed it up. We recruited a whole bunch of new people.
Yeah.
And we gave them 5. Most people had 5 people to call.
Yeah.
And we told them call them every week.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out that not everybody wanted to call every week. But then they told them.
Yeah.
And so now they get a call once a month or
Yeah.
whatever time that works for them.
Yeah.
So we train people how to do that. But here's the new thing. This is using technology, right?
Yeah.
So using the phone, basically the phone tree thing, that's an old technology.
Right.
What's new is our church database, which is CCB. Some of you use CCB, I know. Doesn't do a good job. You can't put notes in about conversations of people that when you call them into CCB. So we just got a new database.
Yeah.
It's called Church Track.
Yeah.
And we didn't replace our old one, we just have a new one. And so now when these pastoral care people call, they make notes. And so I have a member of the pastoral staff, our clergyman, Dean, who oversees all of that. And he's checking every couple of weeks and seeing what the results are. Okay, so we're able to have a much better handle than we've ever had before on how people are really doing.
Yes.
Okay, so that's an example. But beyond that, also we just all recognize we just all got to be calling people a lot more frequently.
Yeah.
A lot more frequently.
Yeah.
Right. We got to show up. We got to invite people to our house. We got to be on the phone with people because this is their need.
Right.
They're feeling disconnected.
Yes. Yes.
So they need more pastoral touches than before. This is one of the reasons why pastors are stressed, because they know that their people need more.
Yeah. And one of the things that occurs to me as you're talking about that is that you have now increased your reach, because by all of these folks working together with Dean, if all of that responsibility was on him to do it, there's only so much one person can do. But if you got a whole team of people working together, and then he's overseeing it, and he's seeing who are the people that I need to follow up with.
That's the idea.
Oh my goodness, it's so much more efficient.
Equipping the saints for the work of ministry.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just an example of how to do pastoral care.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what about something like outreach evangelism? How does that work in the new world?
When you figure out how it works, you let me know. Look, we're just trying to take advantage of what we see as the new opportunities.
Right.
Okay. And we're learning.
Yeah.
Like everybody else.
Right.
So we're aware that there's now these expanded opportunities digitally, and that our front porch has become bigger. We're always trying to have a front porch, but now the front porch isn't even physical.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So now we've got an online congregation. Like, how do you manage that? I don't know.
Yeah.
But how do you recruit?
Yeah.
So one of the ways that you recruit is by getting better with your digital products that you're putting out there.
Right.
right? And so I just want to encourage you. If you don't have someone doing video ministry in your church or sound ministry, you need that. And please rethink your budget so that you can do that. I mean, we have that. We had that in our budget already. And praise be to God, we had people who were able to move there.
Right.
But I think we do need to shift our budget priorities to take account of this new reality.
Yeah.
Because we can do better. From what I've seen, we can do a lot better. And sometimes it just means you need to pay somebody to do it. I think also the importance of a good website is even more important. And having good video content on your website is important.
Yeah.
Even more important than it was, because almost everybody, before they come see you on Sunday, they're looking at you. Spending lots of time. I mean, we've got people who saw us online for months before they came. I mean, they felt like they knew me.
Yeah.
I didn't know them.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I have done as a teacher with my students at Gordon Conwell is we will go visit different churches, and for a lot of pastors, that's a new experience of visiting a church for the first time, because we're always in our own churches, and it reconnects us with the disorienting feeling that a lot of people have. We wonder why people don't come to our churches. Well, they don't want to have that sense of disorientation. So doing something like what you're talking about, where they can watch online, they can get comfortable with it, get familiar with what's happening and what you do and how you do it, and listen to you preach and all those things before they actually go through the front door is going to be important.
The thing is, this isn't really evangelism, but one of the things that we're doing is we've got noonday prayer on Facebook Live Monday through Saturday. Thank God Robbie Pruitt came and he had a heart for this. And so I do it once a week. We spread it out among other guys. And so we're getting typically about 300 views every day.
Wow. That's amazing.
And these people are all over the place.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we're learning how to do that better. We just kind of started, and it's getting better over time.
Yeah.
But when you put liturgy out there on the web, I don't think of that as evangelism.
Yeah.
Okay. But what it is it's encouragement, it's discipleship, it's ministering to the body of Christ that is dispersed. And that's an important ministry.
Yeah.
You got to find your own niche and ways that you can do that. I mean, we're getting similar numbers actually in our YouTube live stream, and it's not that much on Sunday morning, but over time, I mean, people are watching Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, a couple of weeks out.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the upsides to this, is that a lot of people, I think, in today's world are in a time crunch, for lack of a better word. And people have so much on their plates, and they're trying to juggle so much. And then if before COVID, everybody was commuting, and so you might spend an hour, 2 hours in the car. I know people have spent 4 hours commuting every day. And so when you get home, you don't want to go out. But if it's a matter then of just being able to tune in, and
totally new opportunity.
There it is. Yeah.
There it is. Absolutely.
So it solves that.
And here's another thing that we're doing that, as far as I know, nobody else is doing, at least locally here. And that is, and I've been working on doing Facebook advertising for a couple of years. You know this, right? But we finally hired somebody from the outside to manage it for us.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And so we're doing daily Facebook ads and daily Google ads.
Wow.
Okay, so we hired this guy to do search engine optimization. It's something I've always known about. It's like, that would be nice. It's one of those things out there. But now it's like, yes. I want to do this.
Yes.
Right? Because, and here, this is what he told me. He said, Clancy, when you type in Google, church near me, right? you're going to see the first thing that comes up is 3 church names. Then you can click the arrow below there, and you can get other names. Right now, Church of the Holy Spirit in Leesburg comes up number 10. Okay, and we've been doing stuff online for a while.
Yeah.
Right? He says, my goal for you is to be in the top 3.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And we're climbing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? Already after 3 months, we're moving up.
Yeah.
So we had 9,000 views last month.
Yeah.
Of the pictures that he's putting up there on Google.
Yeah.
You know, so when people search stuff in Google, it's like, I didn't even know there was such a thing.
Yeah.
It's like you put up your pictures, you put up your events, all that stuff is there.
Yeah.
He's doing all of that.
Yeah.
And, this costs money.
Yeah.
But I think this is the direction that we need to be going.
Well, and it's money well spent because it's effective. You know, advertisers talk about that. How do you get on people's perceptual map? You know, and the fact is there are a lot of ways that we used to we put an ad in the local newspaper, or we'd put something in the phone book or whatever. You know, that's all stuff that doesn't work anymore. You know, and maybe it works some places, but by and large it doesn't. And this works. I have one of my students is a guy who does church planting in Latin America, and he recruits his church planters using Facebook ads and Google ads.
Recruiting
Yes.
church planters.
Yes.
We
And
need to talk about this.
oh my goodness. It was so effective. It was amazing.
We did it for a while, you
Yeah.
know, with the website, the L102 website,
Yeah.
recruiting planters.
Yeah.
But he's doing Facebook.
Yeah, and using their ads, and people are responding.
Maybe we can do this as a diocese.
Yeah, I think that we need to look into this.
Well, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Let me tell you another thing that we're doing that I'm excited about. Okay, so we learned how to do Zoom worship because, you know, we had someone on staff on the skeleton crew who got sick.
Yeah.
And so we needed to go home and just do it from home.
Yeah.
All right. Then we learned how to do, you know, live stream and we do it on YouTube. That's what we do. But so we knew how to do Zoom, we knew how to do live stream, but how do you marry those two?
Yeah.
That's a hard thing.
Yeah.
But we're learning how to do
Yeah.
it now. So every Wednesday night I teach a healing prayer class. And we're doing it both on Zoom and in person.
That's great.
So you see those screens over there, we put people, you know, up on the screen that are in the Zoom call. And we also have people here.
Oh, wow. Uh-huh.
And we have people from California and Florida and Tennessee who are tuning in.
Wow.
Now, it's like the question is, like, what is your calling? Who are you trying to reach, right?
Right.
I don't know about you, but I mean, I want to reach those people.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we need to think outside the box of who it is we're called to reach. And there's so many new shifts that we need to think about in terms of digitally. And we're learning also how to interact with people when they're watching the live stream. You know, so my assistant rector, Robbie, will sit there on his phone while I'm preaching, and he's texting. Well, actually, he's making comments. He's talking to people who are chatting on YouTube.
Yeah.
You know, so we need to think new ways of engagement.
Well, that's a great word. I remember listening to a talk by a guy named Jeff Reed, who is in charge of digital church for Stadia, which is a church planting network. You're familiar with them. And Jeff was talking about the word engagement, and he was comparing reach and engagement. And he said, you know, Billy Graham had an amazing reach because he could give a talk or do a crusade that would be broadcast over 35 satellites around the globe, and literally 1 billion people could hear what he had to say at one time. That's reach. But he had no engagement with the vast majority of those people.
That's right.
And the point he was making is that with the digital tools we have today, the very point you just made, we can now engage the people that we are connecting with. Well, I think this is very exciting. There are a lot of upsides to it, obviously, and you know, and it is kind of difficult and disorienting and such. But you know, my sense about it is that you know, we're having to figure out new stuff. This is not something that's optional. We've got to do this. but God is leading us. He's showing us, and we're figuring it out. And I think that what I hope for everyone that's listening to us now, and that you will come and join us on our Zoom call. We're going to have a Zoom call on November the 12th at 7 o'clock in the evening, and we're going to be talking about these things. And what we've just done is to present the ideas, which we're hopeful people will watch sometime before November 12th at 7 o'clock. And then when we gather, this is going to be one of those Zoom calls where we're just going to be able to talk about all these various things. And there'll be time to ask questions. There'll be time to make comments. There'll be time to do a lot of different things. So this has been great. I really have enjoyed being with you, Clancy. With all these changes, though, let's close with this thought. What are the things that haven't changed? What are the things that are still the same?
Thanks for asking that question, Tom, because I think it's important that we remember the things that don't change.
Yeah.
Okay, so at the risk of sounding cliche, right?
Yeah.
God is still on the throne.
Yep.
God is still completely in charge. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Okay? And we also know the church is not going away. The church is eternal.
Right.
Please don't be discouraged at all the different challenges the church is facing right now because of COVID. This is what I think. Okay. I mean, because I've always seen, historically speaking, when the church is challenged, that's when we tend to do well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the church in general will survive. I think that there's lots of congregations that aren't going to survive already.
Yeah.
That have folded.
Yeah.
But the church, generally speaking, will survive.
Yeah.
Another thing that hasn't changed is that we still need to love people, Tom.
Yep.
At the bottom, at the base of everything, we've got to figure out how to love people, how to deliver care to people, how to speak the word of life to them, right? And it's risky.
Yeah.
I mean, I go to people's houses. People come to my house. We've got windows open and fans on and all kinds of stuff, right? But I was deeply influenced by an article I read early in the pandemic by Martin Luther about ministering in time of pandemic. And he was asked the question, well, what do you do? Because, I mean, the Black Death was much, much worse than this.
Yeah.
Right? Like, much worse. He said, well, I'm as safe as I can be.
Mm-hmm.
However, when my neighbor who's in need, I become aware of that, I go minister to them.
Yeah.
And I think that's right.
Yeah.
I think we need to take measured risks to love people and to show them we love them.
Man.
While being as careful as we can be. Here's your mother is going to be happy with this particular piece of advice I'm giving. Handwritten notes are still effective. Thank you. And basically, the basic tasks of evangelism and discipleship have not changed.
Yeah.
Just the delivery mode has changed.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's really figured out how to do evangelism well at this point. But I can say that we're doing Zoom Alpha courses.
Yeah.
And we've seen people come to Christ, and they're all over the place.
Yep.
I mean, you can now have someone on a Zoom Alpha course who's not proximate to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's a marvelous opportunity.
Yes. Yeah.
So, those are some things I'm thinking. How about you, Tom?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, the thing that you said about the Lord still being on his throne, I think that's the thing that I go back to, because there's that wonderful line in evening prayer that talks about, the fact that God never changes. He in the midst of all the very changes of our world, he is the God of eternal changelessness, I think is the phrase. Mm-hmm. And for me, that is so settling. God knew about this before we did. And I just know that, I look back and I see how all of our clergy and our congregations are adjusting. And I think, he's got this. He's got this. He's got us, And so I tend to just try to stay focused on that and to say, okay, what do you have for us in this moment? what can we do now that we can do better now because of digital tools and technology and that sort of thing than before? You know, and we may have made the shift kicking and screaming, but we're making it. We're making it, and we're navigating this shift. And so let's stay focused on the people that we're reaching. Let's stay focused on the way that we're closing that gap with our culture and reconnecting in a way that's really helpful. And let's stay focused too on doing this together. We're not in this alone. And that's one of the reasons to do this series. So I want to just thank you so much. This has been great.
Thanks for coming out, Tom.
I feel like we could have talked for another hour, but this has been awesome. And we want to just remind you, join us on November 12th at 7 o'clock. We're going to have time to talk with you and to interact about these things. And we are very much looking forward to that. And we'll also be talking about the coming talks that we have in mind and getting your ideas for the things that you'd like to hear more about. Okay? So thanks so much, and God bless.
God bless.